Hello viewers, and welcome to another edition of F1 Talk. And I do realise that you cannot see me again, but I've had some feedback over the previous videos, and judging by the amount of views I'm getting for my videos here on YouTube, I'm fairly confident that this is actually the correct way to go. So unless I get told otherwise from any specific organisation or whoever, this will be the format for these videos. So you'll hear me and you'll see pictures describing what I'm talking about from now on or until further notice. So with that being said, I'll get into the news in the world of Formula 1, and then I will give you my preview and thoughts of the upcoming British Grand Prix that takes place this weekend. So to kick it off, I will start with the question that is posed to Mercedes GP at the present moment in time. You've got Nico Rosberg, who, you know, by rights is de facto team leader. He's the young lion, so to speak, with an older lion in the pride. Talking about Michael Schumacher in terms of, but the pair of them racing for the same team, and with Schumacher's podium at Valencia a couple of weeks ago, this is creating a sort of a good headache, so to speak, at Mercedes. Now, will they offer Schumacher a contract extension because of that? Schumacher's performances was the word I was looking for. His performances have definitely improved this season, whereas Rosberg's, he got the win in China, but since then, he's had a couple of decent points finishes, but Michael's gradually got better. It's as if there's hints and very small aspects of the ghost of the old Schumacher, the one that would dominate races from beginning to end, would drive out of his skin to get Ross Brawn's strategy done, to the perfect degree. But this Schumacher that got the third place, the Schumacher that's getting points finishes, alright, he's only got 3 points finishes out of the 8 races, but you have to take into consideration, would he have been there if the car was more reliable? So it's a very good question about, will Mercedes offer Schumacher a contract for next year and forthcoming years, or will they just say, thank you Michael, you've brought us to the front, blah 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 blah, we're going for some younger blood? So that'll be an interesting thing to see. More news that came out of the Valencia Grand Prix was basically because the Valencia Grand Prix, or the European Grand Prix held at Valencia, is a street circuit. And at present, it's one of 3 street circuits on the F1 calendar. You've got the ultimate street circuit in Monaco. That will forever be in Formula 1, no doubt about it. You've got the Valencia Grand Prix that obviously we've just had. And of course, we have the Singapore Grand Prix that will take place in September. Now, the big question for me, and for other F1 fans, is that street circuits used to be a staple of motorsport, and outside of maybe Indy cars or whatever, and you get a couple of street circuits there as well, and and all sorts of American racing, open wheel racing, things like that, but you don't see a lot in other forms of sports. What they're talking about now is, could a London Grand Prix, could London host a Grand Prix? Now, it's been toyed with, this idea, for decades, I would imagine, because London is the capital of the UK, of England, and it's not always going to be Silverstone that hosts the British Grand Prix. It should be, considering the amount of money's pumped into the circuit, and I'll come back to that later on. But it's interesting to see that new ideas are being thought of. at this time. You know, it's good to see that they're thinking about other options, because not everyone can make it to Northamptonshire for the British Grand Prix. Everyone can make it to London. Getting to London's easy. You just get on a train if you're that far away. I live in the southwest of England. I could get on a train and be in London in a little over 3 hours. You know, that's easy. And watch the Grand Prix. But you know, it's all hypothetical. Silverstone's got the British Grand Prix for a good 10 years now, I think. So we'll just have to see what happens between now and, you know, this is just theoretical, as I say. So it's interesting because it could open up street circuits in major cities, and you know that can only be a good thing for F1 and its future. Now, one of the biggest bits of news since the last Grand Prix is that Marussia signed a female test driver named Maria di Villota. And I do apologise if I've actually pronounced that name wrong, but I seriously doubt whether her or anyone associated with her will be watching this video. She had a horrible crash in the Marussia when she hit a support truck at Duxford Airfield on Tuesday, which is in Cambridgeshire. And it was the very first time she had driven the car. Now, she lost consciousness after the crash, and she would just, you know, it was her first time in the car, she crashed, and as a result she's lost her right eye. Now, absolutely horrible, and, you know, horrible for the team, horrible for her, and horrible for the sport, really, because there's not been many females in Formula 1, full stop, and certainly not many female drivers, put it that way. It's heavily male in you know, integrated sport. It's you know, men up and down the board, and you know, it would be good to see a female driver. It would open up doors and things like that. But the thing is, she was obviously unprepared for it, in my opinion. I'm not saying she's a bad driver. What I'm saying is that female F1 drivers are moot, so to speak. I'm not saying that to get on anyone's bad side, but look how many female Grand Prix winners we've seen. Look how many female Grand Prix points finishers we've seen. Look how many Grand Prix qualifiers we've seen. And is it the fact that they can't handle the G-forces? Is it the fact that, you know, it's Danica Patrick in America might have something to say about this, but are women strong enough to handle the cars? I'm not saying they're not, but what I'm saying is, would a stronger male been able to control the MR01 before it crashed? I'm not saying he would have done, but it's all theoretical again. It's big news, and it's put Marussia into the news, into the spotlight, but not in a way that they would want. So terrible tragedy for them and Di Villota, and hopefully she'll recover as much as she possibly can. I mean, I can't imagine losing a right eye, or, you know, losing a limb or whatever, but she's just got to adjust now, and that's basically her racing career over, you know, a test track. You know, again, having an injury like that is one of the worst things that can happen in motorsport. It shocked the F1 fraternity, especially, you know, other drivers, Fernando Alonso being one of them, and you have to say that safety standards need to be looked at again, but also it's quite possibly the worst team for it to happen to. They're looking to develop their car. They're also looking to improve what they have, and what they have right now is the worst package in Formula 1. And a setback like this in testing, testing for these teams is vital. I personally think that the three newer teams, Caterham, Marussia and HRT Hispania, should have unlimited testing, because they're nowhere near good enough to be competitive in Formula 1. They've been in F1 since 2010, and only just now Caterham are beginning to threaten the lower points standards. With more luck at Valencia they might have got their first point. But best wishes out to Maria de Vallota, and hopefully she'll continue to race in some form or another, but with one eye it's going to be very difficult for her. Now we're basically going on to the preview of the British Grand Prix now, and a lot of teams were concerned by the pace of Sebastian Vettel at the last Grand Prix, and judging from my reviews and previews, Sebastian Vettel, is a likeable guy. He's quite a funny guy. I've seen him on interviews and things like Top Gear, and he seems like quite a nice guy. You go around with him, have a few drinks with him, but he's not my favourite driver. I'll make no bones about that. And there's other drivers I would prefer to win the championship before Vettel. But his speed at Valencia, which he has been brilliant at the last couple of seasons, I'll make no bones about that. He has been extremely good at Valencia, so we'll see if that transitions over to Silverstone, which is a completely different track, and we'll see if he's improved, because we have to take into consideration again the improvements of Red Bull. Adrian Newey is a aerodynamics genius. Will he improve the Red Bull as much at Silverstone as he did in Valencia? Ferrari say they're in a good place for Silverstone. It's quite obvious even to me that they've had quite a good season, considering that they didn't believe they had a decent enough car. Which is surprising. Massa's slowly improving, but he's nowhere near Alonso, and we could see some interesting couple of races with regards to Massa's future, not only at Ferrari but in terms of Formula 1. You have to look at the fact that if Massa was to leave Ferrari, where would he go? There's not many seats open as I currently speak. I wouldn't assume that there's many teams that would want Massa. Maybe a few of the lower teams might want him, but the thing is with Massa is a bit like Barrichello. You look at Barrichello just before the season started, say January, February time, before every seat was taken. Barrichello was ousted by drivers that paid for their seats, paid drivers. And, Massa's got the experience, alright, he may not be as fast, he may not have the edge he had in 2008. As I've said many times before in these videos, Felipe Massa is not the same Felipe Massa as he was in 2008. The crash at Hungary in 2009 definitely left something there. I wouldn't say his fighting edge, but he's not the driver he was. And Ferrari need a decent number two, not a good number two. if you see what I mean. They need a number 2 that will take points away from a Hamilton, and a Button, a Webber, a Vettel. They need a number 2 that will finish second to Alonso. Alonso is Ferrari's bona fide number 1, and he has been since he basically stepped into the team. So the car, according to Rob Smedley, Massa's race engineer, the Ferrari should be suited to the Silverstone track. It was the only Grand Prix that Ferrari won last year, so the signs are good for them there. And you've got to see what the Ferraris are capable of, especially Massa, because Alonso will give it his all. But don't forget, at Valencia, Alonso qualified in 11th, and he went on to win the race. So we'll see what happens there. And one more bit of news that I've come across on the BBC F1 website. Their technical analyst, Gary Anderson, who's been a good addition to the commentary team, he's now doing the sort of pit run, giving his thoughts and analysis on the action going on. He's noticed that Jenson Button's driving style is the reason that he's not qualifying well, and also the reason that he's not getting the decent race results. He won in Australia. He won the first race of the championship. He's virtually done nothing since. He got a second place, China or wherever. And, I'll read out his season results so far. He won in Australia. He came 14th at Malaysia. In China, he finished second to Rosberg. Bahrain, he finished 18th. Spain, 9th. Monaco, 16th. Canada, 16th. And Valencia, 8th. So, apart from 2 races, Button's had a very bad season as far as his standards would go. Now, Gary Anderson has noticed that these Pirelli tyres this year's Pirellis aren't suited to Button's driving style, because Button's probably the smoothest driver on, the gentlest driver on his tyres, which is in contrast to his teammate Lewis Hamilton, because Hamilton's way he treats the tyres is to go all out and try and save what tyres he can, which is contrast to Button. And I never actually thought about this fact before I read this article. So it's interesting to see if McLaren can help Jenson in any way, because, as I've said before, when Jenson Button is on his game and the car is suited to him, hardly anyone can stop him. We saw that in the Brawn in 2009. We saw that in a few races over the last couple of years where Jenson's been really good. But Lewis Hamilton can adapt. So if McLaren are going to get both drivers going rather well, they're going to have to change their car's characteristics to suit Jenson, because Lewis can adapt to that. Not saying that Lewis is the better driver. What I'm saying is according to this article and others that I've seen about McLaren, is that Jenson can't adapt to Lewis's driving style. It's not how he does things. It's not, it's never how Jenson's done things. But Lewis can adapt to Jenson's driving style, or Jenson's car with the characteristics that Jenson favours. So it'd be interesting to see if McLaren can, give both drivers a fair shake, because at the moment Hamilton, out the two of them, you back Hamilton all the way. And, Jenson says, my title hopes aren't over, and, he could be right there, but he's got to win, 2 or 3 more races to get back up into the championship hunt. No one can say that they can't win the championship yet. It's still not impossible, I mean, this is round 9 of 20, so we're not halfway yet. And I will be doing a halfway season review, or half-term report, so to speak, after the 10th round. So, sticking with McLaren, we do look like we're going to get a upgrade for the British Grand Prix. Hamilton is only 23 points behind Alonso in the championship. He's third in the championship after Mark Webber in second and Fernando Alonso in first. An upgrade which is sort of needed by McLaren. I mean, they have been left in the lurch, so to speak, due to other teams improving. Red Bull have certainly improved over the last few races, so we'll just have to see what happens. And finally, it's looking like it's going to be a wet race or wet weekend. The weather report suggests that we're going to get rain over the race weekend, so we'll see how that plays into the hands of certain teams, because certain teams are better in the wet than they are in the dry. That's always been the case. It always will be the case. So basically, onto the race predictions. The track was changed quite a lot last year, and obviously the year before. They were transitioning from the old style of track to the new. Now, there's been a few extra sections added or changed, because where the start line was, it's now towards the end of the second sector. So, taking into consideration the improvement of the Red Bull, taking what we've learnt from what I've just said, look for Ferraris to do well. Also look for Lewis Hamilton to do well. Look for Mark Webber to do well. He likes Silverstone. He's won here before. So, I mean, it was the site of at the start of Red Bull's proper charge. So, look for those teams to do well. Look for those specific drivers to do well. Maybe look for a surprise winner. My predictions so far this year have been pathetic. Whenever I've predicted something, somebody else wins. To that end, I will say that the winner of this weekend's... Well, I'll give you my prediction for pole first. I will say that Vettel will get the pole, but Hamilton will win the race. So there you have it. Heard it here first. There's my predictions. What do you think? Do you think that female drivers should be excluded from Formula 1 for safety reasons? Do you think that there should be more to Formula 1 driving than just getting in the car? Do you think that Button's troubles are all to do with his driving style? And do you think that Felipe Massa's days at Ferrari are numbered? So give us a comment, see what you think, and I'll see you for the race review early next week. Thanks for watching.